This is one of the most famous paintings in the world, the Mona Lisa. I'm guessing most of you knew that. And this is the artist who painted the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci. Well, actually, it's a self-portrait drawing that da Vinci did, but there he is. Look, watch this. All right. How about that, huh? Wow. Interesting. Now, this is Pablo Picasso. All right. And this is a drawing that Pablo did. How about that? All right. This is Ted Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss. All right. And here, of course, is the Cat in the Hat. How about that? Tell me they don't look alike, huh? How about that? All right, this one will blow your mind. Here is a self-portrait painted by Vincent van Gogh. All right? And here is one of Van Gogh's most famous paintings, The Beautiful Starry Night. Watch this. Do you see how the negative spaces all sort of line up? Isn't that something? Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because, listen close, all art is self-portraiture. That's right. In fact, here is a little song to help you remember. Everything you make looks like you, because everything you do comes from down inside of you. When you draw or sing or barbecue, when you sneeze or fart or tie your shoe, everything you make looks like you. Oh, all the art you make is gonna look like you, because all art is self-portraiture, and it shows no matter what you do. The things you make swirl around and around, and they show you back your own thumbprints. 'Cause everything you make, no, it's not some sort of mistake or an idea that's half-baked. It's the way reality is wired, that everything you make looks like you. Look out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paint by Monster with me, your host, Easel Monster. All the looking at paintings I did to get ready for this episode made me want to paint a picture. So, this time, I'm going to paint an acrylic painting on Masonite, and I thought it'd be fun to paint something from out of one of my sketchbooks. You know, last year, I got off the bus, and I was walking home, and I saw my neighbor, Mr. Johnny, sitting on his porch. So, I stopped and talked to him for a while, because, you know, I'm neighborly. And now, as an artist, I always have my sketchbook with me. So while we were talking, I asked Mr. Johnny if I could draw his picture, and he said yes. So I thought today we'll paint a painting of Mr. Johnny from out of my sketchbook. I've opened my sketchbook to the page with Mr. Johnny on it, and I have a sheet of tracing paper here that I've taped over the top of it. Now, my plan is to ink the drawing of Mr. Johnny, and then we'll affix the ink drawing on the tracing paper to a piece of Masonite, and I'll show you how we're going to do that, all right? So, let's make some art. I like to keep tracing paper around. It's a handy kind of paper. You can see through it. It's very thin. You can see here. It's sort of a thin film kind of a paper. I buy this at an engineering supply store near me, but you can get this almost anywhere. You can get it oftentimes even at the drugstore. The tracing paper that I buy comes in a roll, but you can also buy it as a tablet so that it comes in individual sheets. And as I've said in other episodes, this is straight black India ink and a number 2 watercolor brush. Now, I could have redrawn this picture onto the Masonite, but doing it this way helps me to preserve the energy of the original sketch. And sometimes that's important. Mr. Johnny's been my neighbor for a long time. He used to work in a factory, but he lost his job a while back, and now every time he sees me, he says, "Easel Monster, that robot took my job." And I say, "Mr. Johnny, that was 12 years ago. That robot probably has a family by now. they got to buy their kids WD-40 to eat and software to upgrade them to puberty. Don't you think maybe you could find a different job? And he says, no, I just keep collecting my disability checks. Now that it's all inked, we can get rid of the sketchbook, and we're down to the tracing paper, and get rid of the tape. We'll cut off the excess paper. There we go. And now we're going to glue this down to the sheet of Masonite using some homemade Mod Podge. Now, you can buy something called Mod Podge at the art supply store, all right? Or you can make your own. It's 1 part water to 2 parts white glue, just white school glue, all right? So if you mix it up in that ratio, and I like to put the date when I made the batch. This is when I made the batch, 18th of February of 2015, all right? So we're going to glue down the tracing paper inked drawing onto the Masonite, just like this. And put the glue over the top, too, all right? But be careful, because the glue will smear your ink lines around, so don't go nuts. And then we'll mix up some local color, and I'm going to start on Mr. Johnny's head, I think. All right, let's zoom in here so we can see. There we go. Now I'm using just acrylic paint. You can buy this at any art supply store. Comes in a tube. You've seen me use it before, and I'll probably use it again. And first of all, I'm trying to get all of the canvas covered. Cover all of the area with paint, with something. You can come back in and change the color later, but get everything covered first so that you can see what you're working with. A mistake that young artists make sometimes is they will stay in one area and try to shade things and make the details really work together before they get the entire area of the painting covered. And as I said, that's a mistake. Cover the entire surface of the painting with paint, and then work on areas that need a little more detailing or shading or things like that. All right? Try to work from the bigger down to the smaller. A friend of mine likes to say, you got to bake the cake before you can ice the cake. Don't work on the icing part first. I should tell you about Masonite. Masonite is a kind of a hardboard that's made out of steam-cooked and pressure-molded wood fibers. Basically, they take wood chips and they disintegrate them by saturating them with steam, and they turn it into a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet that has a smooth finish on both sides. And artists have used this as a support for their paintings for a long time. All right, you can buy this at your local home improvement store, and a sheet of it will usually cost you less than $10, and you can have them cut it up right there for you into whatever little size boards you want to have to paint on. That's what I do. Also, when I'm painting on a piece of Masonite, I like to mix my paint on a little scrap piece of Masonite. That way, I know how the color's going to look on it. Speaking of color, I can see this is starting to come along. I can also see that this painting is really going to be made up of the primary colors. The basic modeling of the colors is going to be blue, yellow, and red. The browns in this are really going to be a darkened down version of the red. You can see this triad of primary colors in all kinds of paintings in art history. Something to look for the next time you go to the museum. Also look for spare change laying around on the floor. Mr. Johnny has such a great sense of personal style with his wingtip shoes and his hat. Oh, I love Mr. Johnny's hat. It's hard for me to wear hats. For some reason, I bump into stuff. I like having Mr. Johnny as my neighbor. Every time I see him outside, I say, "Hello, Mr. Johnny, how are you?" And he always says, "Easel Monster, I am undone." Just like that. I say, "Are you undone today, Mr. Johnny?" And he says, "Yes, sir." And I'll walk up, ask him if I can sit with him for a while. And we'll just sit there and talk about whatever. Sometimes we're talking about fishing. Sometimes we talk about eating. Sometimes we don't say anything at all. It's nice. Sometimes Mr. Johnny and I would sit out on his front porch and we'd sing. And he taught me a song one time. I think maybe I can play it with my feet and sing it for you while I keep working, all right? Goes like, Mr. Johnny would take a swig out of his paper bag, and we would sing this song together, just like this. Oh, well, I see that you don't like the way that I'm celebrating, but I'm doing good and I'm feeling fine. So, brother, why you got to be hating? You gotta love one another. You ought to love someone. You gotta love one another. You ought to love someone. Yeah. And then he'd throw up in the yard. That was usually my cue that I needed to help Mr. Johnny inside and then pack it in for the night. It was time for me to go home and put him to bed too. So, hey, this is coming near the finish line. Mr. Johnny's green socks are working, and I think maybe we are almost at the end of this. I'm feeling pretty good about it, and there it is. And now it's time for a shot of sake. Well, hello, Saki. What do you think about this episode's art, Well, it's a painting. Or at least it's one approach to painting. And how about the composition? Well, the lines of perspective all seem a bit confused. Yes, keep going. What do you mean? Well, look at the porch railing. Here, and the angle here, and the angle here, they're off. And the angle going back into the porch, it also seems a bit off. But really, I think that's a nice reinforcement of the subject matter. That's excellent, Saki. What else? Well, it makes me feel a little sad, but also it makes me want to laugh. It's tragic and ugly and funny all at the same time. So, do you think it's a successful piece? Plus, it teaches me something, too. Does it teach you that all art is self-portraiture? No. It teaches me that you and Mr. Johnny have the same dentist. All right, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment in the comment section below, or you can send me an email at paintbymonster@gmail.com. And until next time, remember, go make some art. Make a drawing or a painting. Go make something entertaining. Make some art. Go make some art. Go get your pencils, paints, and papers, plasters, chisels, markers, scrapers, rulers, canvas, brushes, hammers, nails, and tape, guitars, and super glue. Get glue and macaroni, cameras, frames, and fried bologna. Go get anything you need for making art. That gnawing feeling deep inside that you can't do it isn't lying to you. Get up off your butt and make some art. And for information on how you can own the original art you saw me make on this video, send me an email. I guess I'll sell it to you.